everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning, and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. This is number 183. Today is Wednesday, August 2nd. AJ and I are checking in from Austin, Texas, and we've got a bunch of news and updates to go over with you guys. Had an extra long week, another week off last week, so we've got plenty of stuff to catch up on. How's it going, AJ?
Going well, man. To all the listeners, sorry that we did not post an episode last week. We just didn't have time. It was it's hard to explain how much work there was to do on the business side of Abroaders, and we couldn't get it done. So for the people that sent an email, hey, we are still alive. We think we should be able to settle into a little bit better routine and get back to that consistency that we used to hang our hat on. So you can expect good, consistent episodes from here on out.
Yeah, and actually, especially next week, really excited because just a day ago, I recorded an interview with Naomi Hattaway from I Am a Triangle. And so I'm really excited to share that because we don't do very many interviews, and we really try and do those when we've just got something that seems like a really nice match for the Abroaders listeners. And this just absolutely fit the bill. So it's a really cool community and a lot of stuff that we don't answer questions about. So definitely stay tuned for that next week. Today, we've got a bunch of news. Let's start with card offers. We've got some new developments, a couple of big sign up bonuses to go over, and definitely some interesting stuff with Citi, and also a return of an offer that was around a little while ago that went away for a bit.
Yeah, one of the big ones is the 75,000 point bonus on the Citi Prestige card. So the details of this offer, and we actually touched on this. We knew this was coming, but it is now live. You can now actually sign up and get approved for this card with this lucrative offer. So 75,000 thank you points after spending $7,500 in 90 days. So that is a higher minimum spend than normal. However, I know we do have a decent amount of listeners who will be able to hit that minimum spend. This is a really exciting offer because we haven't seen this type of bonus. What was the bonus hanging out before?
It's been at 50,000 for quite some time. So this one just hasn't really moved since. I think initially the sign up bonus was 75,000 publicly. That was what I got last August, and it's pretty much hung around 50,000 since then. So this is the first time that I know of that it's publicly available. The offer's gone back up. They did, again, as if you missed the show 2 weeks ago, check in. We've got some updates on some recent changes, but the quick recap here with the Prestige benefits, the big one that's super unique is that you get a fourth night free with hotels, and you can now book that online, and you can use points or cash. So basically buy 3 nights, get a fourth night free. That can be really valuable if you pay for hotels. It also gets a $250 airfare credit. So if you buy flights with the Citi Prestige card, you'll get that back on your statement, up to $250 per calendar year. And then it comes with some of the benefits that are a little more standard, like global entry or TSA PreCheck that's covered. They cover the $100 fee and refund that to you. And you also get Priority Pass Select. So you got access to a bunch of lounges internationally. The one thing that isn't present with this anymore that used to be is you do not get access to the Admirals Club Lounge. And that's a really good segue because the other $75K offer that we have is for the Citi American Airlines Executive card. And boy, that's the card name. I only said like half of the words that are actually in. It's the Citi Advantage Executive World Elite MasterCard, which is about as arrogant as a rewards card name gets. This one is the same terms as the Citi Prestige card, and unless you are hell-bent on getting access to Admirals Club, and for some people that might make sense. So if you live in an American Airlines hub airport and the Admirals Club, like in Austin, there's not a lot of airport lounge options, and the Admirals Club is one of the nice ones. So this card could make sense for that situation. 75,000 American Airlines points after 7,500 spend in 90 days. Also has a $450 annual fee. But beyond the Admirals Club access, there really aren't any big benefits to speak of. This card earns 2 points per dollar spent on American purchases, but so do pretty much all the other American Airlines cards issued by Citi. The one other possible one is if you're somebody that goes after elite status with American Airlines. If you spend a lot of money, you spend $40,000 a year on this card, you can get a bonus of 10,000 elite qualifying miles. That'll help you reach status for the next year. But you should be aware that's per calendar year. So if you get the card now with this sign up bonus, you have to spend 40 grand between now and December 31st to be able to get those elite qualifying miles. So head to head, the American miles are probably a little bit more valuable than Citi points, but even that's kind of up for grabs because American is just one program. It's got only the American Airlines partners and rules, whereas Citi's got a bunch of transfer partners, and definitely the benefits are way better with the Prestige card. So if you're eligible for both, unless you care a lot about Admirals Club or you've got a specific redemption that you're trying to top up your American account for, I think the Prestige card is probably the way to go. But yeah, we'll have both of those offers linked in the show notes. Both of them, I believe, are ones that support the podcast. So you'll find those links at abroaders.com/183. The only other thing to say about those two cards, and we've got a listener question this week about the Citi rules, but the main rule is that you can't have opened another card that earns thank you points in the last 24 months or closed a card that earns thank you points in the last 24 months for the Prestige card. And same idea if you've opened a card that earns American miles with Citi or closed a card in the last 24 months, you won't be eligible for these sign-up bonuses. So that's something to check. Credit Karma is a really good resource to just see when you opened and closed your accounts to verify. And then we'll get to that listener question in a little bit here.
Yeah, one final point on that is for the listeners that are thinking about the Citi Prestige card, this is Citi's version of, their top level, upmarket card where American Express would have the Platinum card, Chase would have the Reserve card. And it's actually funny, Eric, you mentioned those cards and then the Advantage, Executive, World Elite MasterCard. I ran into a guy at Capital Factory last Friday at happy hour who kind of heard what we did, and he was excited to open up his wallet and produce the Sapphire Reserve, the Amex Platinum, the Citi Prestige, and the Citi Advantage Executive World Elite MasterCard. And he was kind of joking with me about how his friends make fun of him because they think it's, a waste that he has all these cards with high annual fees. And he's like, shit, man, they have no idea how much value I get out of these. I fly all the time. So it's, I don't know, that was kind of funny.
It does make sense in some cases. I mean,
sure.
I would
I mean, if you're a very frequent traveler and for him, he flies out of Austin a lot now. He's lived here for a little while, and I think he does some pretty big international travel where just kind of connecting all the dots and it gets offset with the travel credit for the Prestige and the Reserve. So the annual fees aren't quite as high. And I'm
guilty too. I got 3 out of the 4 there.
Yeah. Another thing is it gives you the ability to earn those points too, where I think this guy spends a little bit of money. So I think he likes having the ability to put some spending on that Amex card and top up membership rewards if he's looking at something, because he's relatively savvy with points and miles. But yeah, probably not for everybody, but for some people out there, it is worth it. Staying on credit cards offer and then moving on, this is it's kind of an interesting thing. So the United Mileage Plus 50K offer supposedly is supposed to be dead by now, but there's still a link up. So we're going to toss in the show notes if the United Mileage Plus Explorer 50K bonus is something that looks good to you. There's a chance that this offer may hang around. So as of recording this episode, there's a link that is still live. So if you're interested in that, head over to abroaders.com/183 and check the link to see if it's still alive and if that's something you can take advantage of.
Yeah. This offer, it looks like the public offer is going down to 40,000 points after 2,000 spend. So just a little bit less valuable. And they just do a bad job of taking down all the links. They take away the affiliate links from all their partners, but a lot of times there's spare links and we'll always keep track of those. So this is still a really solid offer. If you haven't applied for a bunch of Chase cards recently, this could be a good one. And we've got a couple of other opportunities to earn United Miles coming up later in the show. So something that could potentially be combined if the offer is still around. Let's talk about for a second the Business Platinum card. There was a pretty interesting set of articles this week about the Platinum card. The first one is that there's a targeted offer for 50,000 bonus points targeted at Business Platinum users for some extra spend. So not to get into too much detail because this is something you can just see in your Amex account, or you can see if they sent you an email. But until October 15th, some folks with the Business Platinum card are going to get some opportunity to earn up to 50,000 extra points. So basically the equivalent of a new sign-up bonus by doing some extra spending. And if you're like me and you've got a Platinum card coming up for renewal, a quick reminder that they do offer some nice retention benefits. So if you're thinking about closing that card, I'm going to have to give Amex a call sometime in August when my $450 annual fee renews. And it looks like they're giving away at least $100 or 10,000 membership rewards points if you say you're going to cancel. So something to keep in mind if you've got either the personal or the Business Platinum card. It looks like those offers are available on both versions of the card.
Yeah, man, I'm always fascinated by where the banks are coming from with those retention calls, because they've got a number in mind that they're willing to go to, but they don't want to start with that. And I'd be curious to like sit in on a meeting at Amex with their team that's actually on the phones and isn't empowered to do what they can to retain their customers. It's I don't know, man, this stuff's just really really fascinating. Speaking of credit card bonuses and points. We've got one final offer that is a pretty interesting one. And Eric, I'm going to lay the overview of this card, and then you've got a little bit better understanding about how to put these points to work. But there's a pretty big bonus with Virgin Atlantic via Bank of America card. And what this looks like is you get 20,000 points after first purchase. That is not the super interesting part here, but you get an additional 50,000 points after you spend $12,000 within 6 months. So once again, kind of a bigger spend. However, you do have 6 months to meet that spend. So you may read about this offer as, earn up to 90,000 points. And we're calling it spend $12,000 in 6 months, get 70,000 points, because some of the other stuff to get the additional points, adding authorized user and all that stuff, we don't think is necessarily worth it. But these points could be very, very valuable. And I know, Eric, you pointed out earlier some really attractive stuff, especially in first class on ANA based on the distance. So, man, you want to take the lead on what 70,000 points can get you?
Yeah, so I guess the big thing as far as this sign up is, and you brought this up when we were talking before the show, this is not a card that you want to get if you've got opportunities to get some of the Chase cards or Citi cards. This is kind of one of those where if you've already got most of the good rewards card products that you want and you're not eligible for new signups with Chase or Citi because of their application rules, this is issued by Bank of America, so it's a card that's available to lots of people. And the place that you can best put these points to work is redeeming on ANA. So ANA is a Japan-based airline. They've got a ton of different connections to other places in Asia. And if you are looking at business or first class, the pricing is just far and away better from the U.S. to Japan and onwards than it would be with a lot of other types of points in terms of redeeming for premium cabin. So if you're looking at a round trip from, let's say, Chicago or New York, it's a distance-based chart. So either Chicago or New York, you'd be looking at 120,000 round trip in first class. So 60,000 points each way. Typically, it's going to be at least 150 or 160,000 in first class, if not more, with any other type of points. And then 95,000 round trip in business class. It's a little bit cheaper if you're on the West Coast, so it could be as low as 110,000 in first or 90 in business class. We've actually booked quite a few tickets using Virgin Atlantic miles for different customers, and we've seen that the value can be really high. And the nice thing with the ANA option is that the fuel surcharges are not super high. So that's what Virgin Atlantic is sort of known for. With flights on Virgin Atlantic, it's sort of like the British Airways scenario where you could pay $500 or $600 in taxes and fees. Can still be a good deal in lots of cases if you're booking business or first class. But I wanted to bring this up because one sign-up bonus can get you pretty close to a round-trip business or first class ticket. And Virgin Atlantic also partners with Citi, Chase, Amex, and SPG as far as transfer programs. So you can top up that account. Let's say you just go for the 70,000, add the authorized user and get to 75,000 with the sign up. And then you can top up your account to what you need for the redemption, pay some pretty modest taxes and fees, and book round trip to Japan or beyond in Asia. Could be a really good opportunity.
Yeah, man. Speaking of those transfer partners, we've got one thing on the tail end of this. So this came from a listener question, I believe, and it's about Citi and product upgrades, downgrades with their 24-month rule. And I think this is kind of relevant going back to, you kind of touched on some stuff with, the eligibility with the Citi Prestige card, but we've got a little bit better understanding now about as far as what upgrades and downgrades do to you in the 24-month rule, where they do not impact you, do they?
Yeah, so this applies to both the American Airlines 70K bonus and the Prestige 70K thank you points. If you've opened or closed a card in the last 2 years, you're not eligible for another card that earns the same points. This is just Citi trying to prevent people from gaming the system and opening cards just to earn points. And so the question was, what if I downgrade a card? So let's say you've got the Citi Thank You Premier card and you want to avoid the $95 annual fee. And so you call Citi, you ask if they'll waive the fee, and they won't. Your option normally would be, okay, close the card, but that's going to make you ineligible for the Prestige card here. And so the key thing that you can do is downgrade the card to a no fee card. So just like one of the no annual fee thank you cards, you can downgrade this card, and as long as your account number doesn't change, which is usually how it works when you downgrade or change products, as long as the credit card number doesn't change, you are not going to be hit with this open or close rule. So that's something that's good to know. This is something a lot of people do where a particular card isn't meeting their needs, or the annual fee is just too high and the benefits aren't worth it anymore. And so you convert the card into a no annual fee card. You avoid the fee, and this means that you're not going to have to worry about being disqualified for a great offer that comes along that earns the same type of points.
It's good stuff, man. Keeping things moving on to booking travel. Man, this kind of surprised me, and maybe I'm just completely oblivious, but the whole thing with AA Advantage and Qatar Airways, man, do you want to take the lead on this? So talking about British Airways and showing kind of phantom availability, this is something that people will definitely want to hear about if they're thinking about potentially moving some SPG points to AA, or even trying to book AA, thinking about flying on Qatar.
Yeah, so we've got one piece of good news and one piece of bad news in terms of making it easy to actually use your points online and not having to make phone calls and so forth. So American Airlines is partners with Qatar. And right now they're having some availability issues where their tech is not syncing up with Qatar Airways. And so while normally you could use your American miles and book on Qatar, for whatever reason, even by calling, agents are not able to help you use, especially with flights through Doha, American Airlines miles. It looks like this is going to be a short-term issue. And so basically, like, you can see Qatar Airways flights that are available using the British Airways website. As AJ mentioned, British Airways sometimes shows more flights than are actually available. And so the key takeaway here is just, if you've got AA miles, you don't really have to worry too much. You can just give them a call and see if the flights that you want on Qatar are available.
Man.
If you're thinking about moving SPG points, you want to make sure that you call before transferring. And the good news is, with American, you can put flights on hold for 5 days. And so the order of operations here is, if you want to fly connect through Doha or fly using American miles on Qatar, give American Airlines a call, see if they can find the flights. If they can, put them on hold, and then you can move your SPG points. SPG has been transferring in about 2 to 3 days right now. So it should be plenty of time. If you make the hold and then move the SPG points, you should have no trouble being able to confirm that ticket. And it looks like this is a short-term IT issue, so it should be worked out pretty soon.
Do you think any of this has to do with Qatar's issues in the region as of late?
I don't think it has to do with any, like, it seems like Americans not retaliating, or like they already sort of have a strained relationship. It seems like this is just like flat out an IT thing. And it happens more often than not. Actually, the other news story for today about availability, we announced a few, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, that Alaska miles, you were not able to use them to book Emirates flights. And it was another one of those IT issues that's since been resolved. So one for the good guys and one for the bad guys here. But the bottom line with the Alaska one, even though it's now available again, it's still a pretty horrible deal. So you probably, unless you're just absolutely hell-bent on using Emirates Award, using Alaska to book Emirates, it's just a much more expensive proposition. There's lots of great partners with Alaska that you can use your points for better value. But sometimes things work out that's kind of the best option. So it's always good to see the tech being fixed, and everybody kind of had the same suspicion. A lot of the blog posts that came out about the Alaska and Emirates situation are basically the same thing that people are saying about American and Qatar. So I think I'd say don't panic and just give it a little bit more time, and things will probably get worked out.
Yeah, man. Moving further east to China, we've got some kind of cool news that actually is something that would actually make me consider visiting China, because China isn't all that appealing to me. So I don't know if any of the listeners know, but China for a while had a 3-day visa where if you were, transiting through China, you could essentially have a freebie visa where you didn't need to actually go through any official visa process to wander around a city for 2-3 days or whatever. And they're expanding the 3-day visa to 6-day visas in multiple markets. So currently we've got Shanghai and a couple other cities that I've never heard of are at the 6-day visas. And then we've got Beijing and a couple other cities I haven't heard of moving from a 3-day to a 6-day visa by the end of 2017. So this is kind of cool. I've seen other places do similar things. And another thing, when we were talking before the show, you said that this doesn't have to be all on like one itinerary. You can fly into China on one airline, and if you book a separate flight out of there, as long as you can prove that you've got onward travel within that window, you get to go, wander around Beijing or Shanghai or Hangzhou or any one of these cities.
Yeah, it looks cool. Like I definitely agree with you that personally I would not be going through the process of mailing my passport to the Chinese embassy for a 10-year visa. But if next time I'm in Asia, if there's an easy chance to transit one of these cities that's got either a 3-day or a 6-day transit visa, definitely worth checking out. And having the fact that it is possible potentially to do this with separate itineraries means that you don't have to use a program that allows a stopover. So you can book, if you're somewhere else nearby in Asia, you can book a cheap flight to Beijing and then do your onward international flight, back home to the US or wherever you're headed as a final destination. And you've got, instead of 3 days, you're going to have 6 days. So yeah, I think Shanghai would be the city that I'd be most interested
I was just going to say that, man. I was going to say, I've never been to China, but from the people I know that have been to China or have lived in China, Shanghai is the big city that they're the most excited about. I don't know. I haven't heard great things about Beijing. Eric, we've got a friend, Andrew, who was there for a while and wasn't exactly excited about being there, but have heard really good things about Shanghai. And I love big cities, and I would be so curious to see just a Chinese big city, because every country's got their little things, and China knows how to do big cities.
Yes, they definitely do. All right, so moving on to some other news, we've got an announcement from a federal court that was reviewing a case about seat size regulations. So just for perspective, since like the late 70s, early 80s, seats have gotten quite a bit thinner, quite a bit narrower in terms of width, and we've lost a lot of knee crushing leg room. And so we've seen seats get skinnier by about 1.5 inches, and we've lost on average about 4 inches of distance between seats. And so the federal judge just basically said, the opinion was kind of funny, because he basically said, in addition to the fact that the airlines are just cramming more and more seats into airplanes, Americans are getting larger, and we need to come up with a minimum amount of pitch and width that is safe for people to evacuate a plane. So there's lots of commentary on all sides of this about whether the federal government should be regulating seat size in terms of what airlines are allowed to do to their poor consumers, and whether free markets should decide what people are willing to put themselves through for a slightly cheaper ticket. However, this one is calling out the safety considerations, and that if there's an emergency, you got to be able to evacuate a plane, and you can't just keep stacking people. So I think overall this is good. I think it's probably really good news that there's going to be some sort of limit, and certainly from a safety perspective, I want to make sure that people can get off planes. So.
Yeah, man, this is kind of another one of those things where I want to know what the meetings are like. For example, the airlines, like. At what point, like in the past, have airlines, approved designs or specifications with Boeing before you know what, there's no regulations right now about, making seats smaller and cram more people in. This looks good, because, modifying aircrafts, that stuff's really expensive. So, Like, I wonder what this does, what that decision does for airlines that, had some ambitious plans to make the pitch go even tighter and to make the width go even more narrow,
reconfiguring aircrafts takes forever, and we're actually going to mention later on, United's doing away with first class. And so they're going to be converting to all business class, and just like they've got a timeline of like a year and a half to finish refitting all the planes and swapping out the seats. One of the things I thought was super interesting, there was recently an air show in Europe that was like an aircraft interior conference, and they've got these new seats that are designed to be able to like just sort of slide on tracks. And so if they want to throw in an extra row of seats or whatever, they just move all the seats up and narrow the pitch, and it makes it really fast for them to change, like something that they could change out in a matter of hours rather than a matter of months.
Man, that's something that could be huge for the value for the passenger. Like, you got a big ass airplane with a bunch of empty seats. If it would only take the crew, 20 minutes to move some stuff around, it could be just an enhanced flying experience for people. Hey, you got there's so much waste.
Seats, we just took out a few rows for your comfort and stuffed the seats into the baggage hold, so you got some extra room. Like the first airline that can pull that off from an operations standpoint is going to get a lot of extra business, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So that stuff right there is, I think, good news for the consumer. And we've got some more good news for the consumer. It looks like by around this time next year, what we've got in the notes is June 2018. As far as the bag check-in process goes, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more like a UPS package, where there's going to be better communication and transparency as to the journey that your bag is going on. So, the example we've got here is, an American Airlines flight connecting to a Japan Airlines flight. The airlines will be able to see who scanned your bag last, where it was. So there will actually be a little bit of an electronic trail of your bag. So that should cut out the crazy mystery, where if something bad does happen, I would imagine it'll be a hell of a lot faster for them to, figure out where the bag last was and just kind of work backwards and figure it out.
Yeah. So for those of you that are like me and have a horribly old, awful piece of luggage that you're too cheap to replace and you're just hoping that an airline loses it, you need to get it lost before June 2018. Otherwise, they're going to be hopefully a lot better at keeping track of people's bags that actually want their bags at their final destination.
That actually want their bags? I think that's probably the majority of people.
Most people will be happy. Anyway, so next up, we've got just a quick announcement about interline agreements. We got Air France and KLM are buying a 31% stake in Virgin Atlantic, and Delta and China Eastern are buying 10% each of Air France KLM. The only thing that really matters here is that at some point relatively soon, like say in the next 6 to 8 months, you're going to be able to redeem Virgin Atlantic points on Air France and KLM, which previously wasn't possible. So that goes back to that $90K sign-up bonus, one additional option to potentially use your Virgin Atlantic points. And it also means that there's just going to be a lot of additional connectivity in terms of putting together routes that have less painful layovers and easier connecting flights to get to your final destination in Europe. So this is one of those things that tends to have really nice effects for travelers down the line. This was just announced recently, so it'll take a little while for things to shake out, but definitely good news on that front.
Yeah, final thing here. We've got some news about the electronics ban has been replaced with a new global security procedure. So the moral of the story here is that it may take a little bit more time to get through security. As we've got in our notes here, the 280 plus airports around the world that offer, flights into the U.S. have now implemented this new security regulation, which looks like removing electronics from your bag, some explosive swabbing. So, like I said, allow just the routine stuff to make sure you're not carrying a bomb. So I guess, building some extra time. We don't know exactly what this is going to look like. Eric, you should be able to give our folks a decent idea of what it looks like for you, because you're heading to Ireland in September, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be in Dublin. I'm going to make a couple of, I'm going to make a quick stop in Portugal as well. But I'll be flying back from London to Austin on that direct flight. And so I will be going through the new upgraded security procedures. It looks like I actually actually, this will factor in for me as far as timing, because I'm going to have to book a separate reservation to get to London, and then, go outside of security and then check back in for the international. So definitely we'll report back and see kind of what I would imagine that London Heathrow already had some pretty tight security compared to some of the other places that have had to make more dramatic changes. But definitely we'll personally be leaving a little bit of extra time, and will be interesting to see how similar it is to the TSA restrictions that they have in place for domestic travel in the U.S. Last up, we've got a couple of listener questions and feedback, and a couple of opportunities brought to our attention. The first one is an email from Recon Scott. This one was news to me and directly affected me. So I've been using a mobile app called Prosper Daily to keep track of my spending, and in particular transactions on a bunch of different rewards cards. And it looks like they have decided to shut down. They are focusing on some other part of their business that doesn't involve helping people track their transactions. So this was something that I wanted to bring up because we recommended Prosper Daily on a couple of episodes a while back. So sorry for missteering any of you guys to follow my lead and use this product that is going out of business. There's a few other options. Alternatives I checked out before the show. There's an app called MoneyLion. It looks like Prosper Daily is trying to push all their people to Clarity Money. And then Personal Capital and Mint.com are two somewhat bigger ones that are less mobile focused and a little bit more feature rich, I guess you could say. But all four of them, as far as I'm concerned, really suck for the simple thing of just taking a look at transactions and seeing if, making sure that they're legit transactions. So, would definitely be really interested if any listeners have other apps that they use to just keep track of spending. Like, the thing about Prosper Daily that I loved is when an annual fee posted, I could just swipe to the left and flag it, so I remembered to follow up. And so because of this, and with some planning from way back, knowing that these annual fees have just been a huge pain, we are launching annual fee reminders for all the cards that are stored inside the Abroaders app. By the time this show goes out, we should have sent out our first round of annual fee reminders for all the cards. And I think we've got like 5,000 cards that are stored, maybe 6,000. Yeah. So lots of people, if you don't have an account, definitely sign up, create a free account with the Abroaders app, and we'll be sending out those reminders just to let you know which cards you have that should be posting an annual fee and what you can do to get that fee waived.
Yeah, man. One of those alternatives you mentioned, Clarity Money, that's actually was founded by one of Jake. Jake is a team member on Abroaders. It was founded by one of Jake's law school professors, Adam Dell, who is actually the brother of Michael Dell, as in effing Dell. Pretty interesting story. I'm really curious to follow what they do. I know Jake's going to reach out to get in touch because they're in an odd way in a similar space from us, but there's actually a local venture capital firm that got behind them, as well as Clarity Money has some Soros money behind them. Soros is one of their backers, but it's really well reviewed. I don't know if they're doing great PR, but I'm kind of curious about it. I haven't downloaded it yet, but any users, if you have an experience there, we can try to get Jake to badger the founder if you have a bad experience.
Yeah, well, out of all of them, that one seemed like the nicest, simplest one.
Yeah, they do subscription management as well, where they I think do a decent job of being transparent around what recurring charges you have on your credit cards. Another transitioning here, moving on to some other feedback. So Ross Gerson, if you're listening, Ross, how you doing? Great guy who's actually become a little bit more involved in the Abroaders business. I won't spill the beans if you want to be a little bit more incognito, Ross. But Ross gave us a really good tip on how to get 5x points on Airbnb and Uber. So this is the classic gift card hustle where you get 5x points by using your Ink Biz Preferred, your Ink Plus, Ink Bold, buying gift cards. So buying Amazon gift cards or buying Amazon gift cards at office supply stores. And then you can buy Airbnb and Uber gift cards through Amazon.com. So this is a way to get 5x points on Uber and Airbnb if you're willing to do a little bit of grunt work around ultimately getting the gift cards that you will buy the credits for Airbnb and Uber and then eventually use them in the future.
Yeah, definitely. If you use a lot of, if you spend a lot of money on those, like as long as you happen to stop by an office supply store like once every 3 months, it should be super easy to stock up on some Amazon gift cards. And also, by the way, this is not just for Uber and Airbnb. If you buy a ton of stuff on Amazon, there's one step removed here. You can just buy Amazon gift cards at your office supply. So that's something that definitely can be well worthwhile. And I think the cap is $50,000 in annual spend. So that's probably way more than most people would even have to worry about the cap. And 5X points is no joke. Chase points are super valuable. So that's a really good way to extend the 5X category to some additional types of products, especially Amazon. Basically, you can buy everything. So
yeah, exactly.
5X on all things. Last up, we've got a email that came in from Michael H. He sent us an alert about a DirecTV offer that looks pretty awesome. I went through and read the fine print, and unlike lots of these deals, this one looks pretty legit. It's 30,000 United miles when you sign up for DirecTV service. They, just like Comcast and a lot of the other big cable providers, have some kind of nasty pricing where they give you a nice promo rate for the first year, and then they raise your rates. But basically, if you sign up for one of these deals, you should be able to get the points within the first year for sure. And 30,000 United miles is a one-way to South America. It's a one-way to Europe, one-way to lots of places in Asia. So you're talking about some significant value, and it's just for starting a cable TV.
Yeah,
DirecTV.
I would add one thing. I don't know if the offer is still alive, but I do know in the past American Airlines has had a similar offer. I believe the Americans was 25,000 points, but yeah, like Eric said, if you're gonna get DirecTV, you may as well get a free one-way flight to Europe or South America. I mean, you shouldn't get DirecTV to get these miles, but if you're going to get DirecTV, and which, by the way, if people are into TV, I think it's a pretty good option. If I were a richer man and spent more time watching TV, I think it would probably be with what I go for. But I do neither of those things. I'm neither rich or watch a lot of TV. But
so we have a direct link to the promo. This one is definitely still alive. Checked right before we recorded, so that will be in the show notes. Thanks a bunch, Michael H, for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
With the audience. Okay, that does it for all the main stuff today. We've got a lot of overflow of just interesting offers that we didn't have time to get to today. So we're going to do a quick rundown. Everything mentioned from here forward is going to be in the show notes at abroaders.com/183. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, just hop over there and you can check it out. Leading off, we've got something that might be combinable with the United offer that I just mentioned through DirecTV. Amex has a targeted offer where if you spend at least $100, you can get either 10% back, or some of these Amex offers are targeted for 1,000 bonus membership rewards. So check that out and see if you can combine it with the DirecTV sign up as well.
Yeah, we've got back to school portal promotions. So anyone that's doing back to school shopping, this could be an opportunity for you to get a few thousand miles just for buying what you're going to buy. Moral of the story, like most things with these types of promotions, is don't spend way more just to get your miles. If you can find a good deal on something you're already going to buy, take advantage of the portals. We got a link in the show notes, like Eric said. United looks like up to 3,000 points. They're kind of the leader, but Delta, Southwest, and American also are doing similar things.
IHG has launched their points breaks. This is an awesome promo where you can get select nights at hotels. They pick a different group for every couple of month rolling period, and it's 5,000 points to book a hotel. Only one Intercontinental on this list. That's in Indonesia. They're by far the high-end property of the IHG portfolio. But there's 74 hotels in the U.S., 11 in Europe, 4 in Asia, 1 in Africa, 7 in South America, 5 in Mexico, and 4 in Canada, for a total of 106 properties that you can book for 5,000 points a night. And that's through October 31st. These do sell out, so check out the list. If you see any you like, you can hop over there, but I would do the reservation soon because often they'll sell out in the first 2 or 3 weeks, so you don't want to wait till too long to get those reserved.
We've got lie-flat business class flights in the U.S. for under 11,000 membership rewards, and this is thanks to the promotion with British Airways. So right now we've got a 40% transfer bonus with British Airways from when you move your Amex points to British Airways. And so how the math works out on this is normally it's 15,000 British Airways Avios for a business class flight on American Airlines. So that's kind of their shorter haul distance. But because of that 40% bonus, that brings it down to 10,750 membership rewards. So you're going to want to look at exactly which flights these are. Obviously, not any flight you book on AA will have a live flight business class, but flights out of Dallas, Chicago, Miami, JFK should be good starting points. But hop on SeatGuru. I'm not sure the best way to figure it out, but
well, actually, this post that we've got linked here.
Okay, they're a little bit more comprehensive.
They went through and did all the hard work for you.
Brilliant.
So, yeah,
we'll check out the link then.
Those airports, and there's select flights that just have like the long haul aircraft. It's the same aircraft that end up going eventually to Europe or to Asia, and they've got a short flight that you can book with BA miles. So super nice. You'll be in a big time, comfy international seat. I would definitely take a look if I had any plans domestically and I didn't just book that flight back to Michigan already. All right, next up, we've got up to 1.67 cents per point using thank you points for hotels. No time to get into the details, but there's a pretty cool post if you have the Prestige card and the Thank You Premier card. Check it out. Definitely worth taking a look at because it can make your points go quite a bit further on hotels. Go ahead.
Next up, for any United loyalists, they're discontinuing their international first class as of May next year. This isn't a huge deal. What this really looks like is they're just getting behind their more modern business class product that is Polaris. In my opinion, I'll take a modern business class product over some old first class product any day of the week. So I don't think this is anything to get anyone's feathers ruffled about.
All right, that's it for the rundown. Again, all those links and everything else we talked about today, we have in the show notes, Broaders.com/183. Thanks so much for being with us. Again, definitely check in next week for more news and updates and a really good interview with Naomi from I Am a Triangle. Anyways, thanks for being with us. We will see you guys next week.
Hey, Broaders, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Eric or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.